My goodness, what a delightfully dense head of foam this is. Look at these tight, tiny bubbles. Oh, that is an absolutely heavenly roast on this. Speaking of heavenly, this angel right here is Mr. Tio from the incredible Crowns and Hops Brewing Company. Everything's mirrored.
Hey.
There we go.
Hey, can you hear me okay, Bob?
I can hear you just fine. And if you're not coming in quite properly, I'm sure Mr. Fridge, our technical director, will beep something, twist some knobs. I am going to skip the big chicken because I have a lovely 10% beer right here from you.
Hey.
Big chicken from us. Little Englewood, little Santa Rosa. Cheers to sir.
Cheers, brother. Hey. What's going on? Happy Big Chicken Day, family. What's going on, Bob?
Dude, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for capping this off. I am completing more sentences and slurring fewer words than I thought I might be at this point in the day.
Well, bro, you were punctuating a day with a 10% beer, man. You're a hero.
I certainly am. I'm working from a big, expansive desk, and I'm sure this desk will make a wonderful place for me to sleep under. Maybe around 6:37 when I'm nodding off. It's 5 o'clock. We're back in California. We are where we want to be. And we are drinking the beers we want to drink.
And you know what's funny is, first and foremost, shout out to the entire Hen House team. Shout out to Sayer. Shout out to Colin. But enough can't be said.
Right?
Enough can't be said. It was you and Fridge that I met for the first time at Hen House about, what, maybe 3 years ago now?
Yeah.
Like, literally, you all made such an impression on me between the Fridge's knowledge and customer service. It wasn't even beyond customer service. I mean, I walked into the Hen House for the first time, and Fridge made me feel like I was a part of the family immediately.
Right.
And then you came in with the quick 1-2 punch, and we were able to do our. Let's give the people a which way. Let's give the people kind of like that first time meeting. Are you looking at me?
Yeah.
See, now it looks like we're talking. It looks like we're actually here having a conversation.
Right, we're talking right to each other. It's like I'm right behind the bar.
I mean, hello, people. Screen grab this, people. If you're watching, screen grab this shit because me and Bob are connected.
This is how it all begins.
Look at see. I bet none of your guests did that.
Right? No, you're the first. Also, shucks, I think maybe hardly any of our guests have actually been to our physical tasting room, and it's certainly not in my bartending days.
I think that might be me. Is that me?
Maybe you're a little frozen, but I can still hear you, and I can live with that.
There we go.
Boom, pops back.
And look, I think it's important to cite that as a brand, Crowns and Hops, we started off with one simple movement, which was to share the love of craft beer with communities who didn't even realize that craft beer was a thing. And I think there were some pillars. And by the way, Benny Ashburn, my partner, shout out to Benny. What up, the dope CEO? Says what's up to everybody in the team. It was important for Benny and I, once we saw the community that was in craft beer with regards to what it meant to share space, what it meant to share palate expanding recipes, like the love for smoked beers that you talked about. I'm not sure if you knew this, but in Urban Queen, we also use smoked malt We feel that that just gives beers an additional layer of complexity, and I think we achieved that. Obviously, the King's Prize coffee that we use complements of Red Bay Coffee, black-owned coffee roaster out of Oakland. We were able to use that that single source Ethiopian bean. We actually extracted the coffee and created a coffee concentrate, which apparently has never been done. Apparently, we're the first brewery to take coffee concentrate at a 14% TDS, which is extremely strong. That's like the equivalent of, I want to say, an ounce is like the equivalent of a cup of coffee. So, it's pretty strong. But again, we in that collaboration you're drinking there, we brewed that beer in honor of Black women, which, to be frank, I think there have been more Black women involved in championing craft beer, not only nationally, but internationally. I think it's also important to raise the point that in Africa, it's the women who are the brewers. It's the women who actually are looked at with the utmost amount of respect for the craftsmanship of brewing beer. So Urban Queen, I love the fact that Sarah said we need to get an Urban Queen in front of Bob. That just sounded awesome.
Yeah.
because Bob, apparently, now that you have been completely consumed by the Urban Queen, I guess we know what it means to, well, once you go, I don't even need to go there. Sarah already knows that. Look at that, I got a screen all to myself. Yeah. So, by the way, look at this is like professional. I feel like I'm on like a CVS or what is it? The Home Shopping Network or something?
Oh, yeah. QVC?
And right here. Yeah, so we have Big Chicken. And by the way, I've been waiting all fucking year for this. I don't know if I'm going to get bleeped on this thing. I've been waiting all fucking year for this. This was actually one of the first beers that I ever had from you guys back in 2017 during San Francisco Beer Week. We had just got through doing a collaboration with Temescal Brewing out of Oakland. Yeah. And someone came to our panel discussion that we were having and brought some Big Chicken. Fucking mind blowing. That was like the first invitation that I got to Hen House Brewing Company. Incredible.
Right. It's really become our calling card, especially, back in the day when our tasting room first opened, people would come in all the time and be like, do you have Big Chicken? When's Big Chicken coming? Isn't this the Big Chicken brewery? We would hear that stuff all the time. And now we actually make multiple beers that people are really, really excited about. So people ask about those.
A couple.
We make a couple. We make, we got a couple of brands now. I remember the time where that was Big Chicken was when Hen House got hoppy, and outside of Big Chicken, there weren't hardly any hop driven beers from Hen House. When I was a beer buyer, but as a Hen House employee, we've expanded on that. Apparently people do like the IPA. They sell pretty decently, I guess. If it was up to me.
So hold on, Bob. Let's get into. Obviously, we're going to do a deep dive into some beer shit, but let's talk about the COVID look, the COVID Bob look. I mean, you got the nice, the bang kind of swooping over, pretty incredible. You got like this Henry Longfellow beard going.
Right. This freaking thing is absolutely crazy. I just kind of found it on my face. This was a COVID thing. I have never had so much as a teenage pube stash on my face in my life before. Never even tried it. And it's come through. I spent years telling people that this was genetically impossible because no other male in my line had pulled this off. And shout out to my sweet cousins, older male cousins who I saw take a swing at this, and it did not work. It was not a cool look.
Hey, bro, like, look, I just started being able to grow a beard myself. I mean, I looked like Splinter from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like I mean, it was just like patches here and there, just really wasn't coming together. But you know what it is? I think there is a certain amount of a lack of stress that you need to, one, not twiddle and fuck with your beard, but also just kind of let it be.
Yeah. You get to that point where you're like, no one's seen me in weeks. No one's gonna see me in weeks. So we'll farm it out. It doesn't even matter. But it's come.
Speaking of farm, what the hell is going on with Colin and this Amish thing he has going on? Is that a new look he has going on? Amish, like fucking Abraham McDonald or something. What the hell is this?
Yeah. I've seen Colin, he can pull it off. I've seen Colin rock this look periodically. It's like the, super chin strap on steroids kind of a thing.
Man. And he has a frothy dark beard, man. And then when he wears his black like bandana, it just looks like all like beard. Yeah,
it fades into just one Omni beard. Although it's just, big beard all the way down. Yeah.
Oh, fucking Colin, dude.
It works though. He can pull it off. I've seen him rock this one a time or two. I'm still learning how to live my life with all this hair on my face.
Bro, and let me tell you, I got a suggestion for you. And maybe you're down for this.
I'm all ears.
Have Sayer take you down to Oakland, right?
Yeah.
Find like the dopest black barber shop and just tell them to hook you up.
Yeah. Listen.
Like, bro, I bet your shit would look so flossy. Your shit would look so, I bet like every chick that came into Hen House, isn't that funny? Get it? Every chick that comes in the Hen House.
We're here for the bird
man chicks and female chicks will be coming after Bob with this dude. I'm willing to bet Sayer's entire commission check on it.
Yeah. I'm really eager to getting this whole thing cleaned up, tightened up. I'm gonna actually, after we're done today, I'm gonna try and make some moves on this thing, some real subtle moves just to free my mouth a little more.
Oh my God, are you like eating your beard right now?
I am definitely eating my beard right now. And the only reason I haven't tried to do anything to it is because I was afraid if I started trimming it, like right now, it's not visually distracting, but if I started trimming it, things could have gone completely off the rails and I could have ended up with some really visually distracting, jagged half beard thing. Story about
maybe that's what Colin did. Maybe Colin was trying to like edge it up and just had to shave that shit off.
Right, you edge it up, it goes wrong, and then you're screwed. As someone who's a little kid in the 80s, a lot of dudes were running around with half shirts. That was a cool thing. And when I was like 6, I wanted that, but I couldn't get my shirt even. So enough time passes and my mom discovers me in the kitchen with a shirt cut up to my sternum and just a pile of shirt scraps underneath. So I haven't touched this beard for fear that I was going to just completely jack everything up for the show today. So if anyone's somewhere on Monday and this whole thing is gone, it's because I tried to fix it and I freaking blew it.
Bro, when I tell you, I mean, sometimes like when you get a haircut, like you just do if you know it's coming all off, you just do a mohawk and you're just like, fuck it.
Right.
Bro, I will pay for your haircut.
Yeah,
I will pay for you to get this. Sayer, Colin, take note. T.O.L. Hunter will pay for Bob's haircut if he goes to a black barber.
No, this is what I need. I need someone to sort all this stuff out. I've been looking like my next manifesto is about to drop. And it can go either way, either like a distinguished Karl Marx or kind of a more crazed guy living in a shack in the woods.
I think you've nailed that already.
Right. But enough, like, my beard's cool. This has been fun, but enough about me. Let's talk about two HBCU grads coming together, starting a brewery, and then creating a beer called HBCU. Like, that is a way more interesting story.
There it is, bro.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. One of the things that Benny and I obviously are extremely proud of is both attending historically Black colleges and universities. One of the things that we found in attending those universities and those institutions is that they armor you for difficult circumstances. And I think the world is starting to have an understanding of the complexities of what it means to be a Black human being in America. I think a lot of people prior to this moment even questioned, like, why do these universities even exist? Why do these institutions even exist? What's the point of it? And I think we're starting to understand when you have graduates like Stacey Abrams out of Georgia,
right,
who literally was probably one of the more important human beings in the United States as it relates to getting everybody aligned with progress. You have our Madam Vice President, Kamala Harris, who attended Howard University, my school of record. But what those institutions did, Bob, is they taught us to not only do what any other university would ask for their student body and their alumni ultimately to do, but they also prepared us to take on these challenges with grace, with honor, with respect, with paying homage to our ancestors and the ones that came before us, excuse me, and to not lose our identity in the process. So we decided to brew a beer in honor of that, HBCU IPA. It's a double dry hopped hazy IPA, and I'll go ahead and crack this open. Hold on. I got to empty one of these glasses.
Sure. There we go.
So it is a double dry hopped hazy IPA. We brewed with a copious amount of Motueka, Eldorado, and Idaho 7. It is a very fragrant and tropical IPA. Has notes of guava, pineapple, stone fruit, everything that you would anticipate getting in a hazy IPA, without an overt amount of bitterness. I think we'd like to consider this more on the juicy side of things. But one of the things that we also identified, Bob, was ironically, well, not ironically, it's pretty telling now that you really put the pieces together. The majority of people that we've met who have either been significant influencers in craft beer or the owners of craft beer businesses also attended HBCUs.
Yes.
You have Black Beer Travelers, Brandon Montgomery out of San Diego, who's doing great things. You have the team over in Harlem who opened a beer bar, Harlem Hops. All three of their owners attended HBCUs, Clark, Hampton, and I'm totally misspeaking here, but I'm going to go ahead and say spell Mega, which is a brewery also out of DC, HBCU grads, and we just saw that it was pretty telling that the ones who would have the most audacity to venture into a industry to where they weren't seeing themselves, they weren't really seeing their culture, would also be HBCU attendees. So this is the first out of a series of beers. It's a bit of a homage to school days. Hence, you have a Crowns and Hops joint, and then you also have the Crossbones that are a moniker from the movie School Days, directed by Spike Lee, also an HBCU graduate.
Yeah. Oh,
That was a lot.
Yeah, no, that is a lot. There's a lot to talk about. Do you have any idea roughly how many HBCUs there are in the U.S.?
That's a great question. Because there's some that are accredited, and there's some that are considered still institutions of higher learning, but may not fall in the accredited category. But I believe it's approximately 60. Don't quote me there. I feel like I should look that up right now, so I totally don't misspeak. But they're predominantly in the South and on the East Coast, which is where I traveled. I went to Howard University, in Washington, D.C., and it was an incredible experience. There's nothing else to describe it. I mean, I got to see Biggie Smalls perform live at Howard, which most people can't even claim to that. I got to see Mandela speak at our university. I saw the incredible poet Toni Morrison speak, and I also saw a private screening of the movie Friday for the first time in Blackburn Hall. When I tell you, I can't even explain it, Bob. It was really an enriching experience, and I can honestly say that Benny and I both utilize our experiences attending HBCUs as being champions of the craft beer industry, and also preservers of our culture and our community, and creating a bridge for both of these communities to coexist. The most significant thing about a bridge, Bob, is a bridge does not need to conform to one of the sides. A bridge just needs to be stable. It needs to be secure so that people can go back and forth, so that people can share information. They can pass gems. They can share things that will enrich the other side. And I think that's one of the reasons why Benny and I felt it was so important to shine a light on historically Black universities and colleges.
Huge. That's huge. And
huge.
Yeah. I mean, crap. I guess I got to purge that one out of my lexicon. Yet another one of the things that jerk has ruined permanently. But no, that is a fascinating puzzle piece for what that experience is like. It's the bridge. That is, man, that's really interesting. The internet is saying 107 HBCUs that are that have 220,000 students making it happen. That's the first thing that popped up on the internet. I don't have time to properly vet and cite sources right now. We'll say that's probably a good number.
Well, hold on, Benny. I don't know. Benny might be listening. Benny, can you fact check me? Like, how many HBCUs are there? I mean, like, I know there's some that have gone away, unfortunately. You know, Morris Brown College no longer is. I don't believe no longer is. And if they are, I'm probably gonna get a lot of DMs telling me about it. But that said, you know, enough can be said about also the opportunity to collaborate, and you know we were able to, you know, Crowns and Hops and in-house, we were able to collaborate. Those what a lot of people in the craft beer consumers, our patrons, may not understand is collaboration is slapping your name on a can, you know, to us at least. And it's an opportunity for us to talk about philosophy, to talk about things that are important to us, best practices in terms of how we treat our employees, best practices, obviously, on how we improve on this liquid. I'm sure Shane is definitely an advocate of what it means to be responsible about the liquid. But these are all things that I think make our industry so incredible. You know, I mean, I don't know, bro. I've had a vantage point to a lot of industries in my career The same with Benny. You know, she's worked for advertising companies to promote and market their brands and stuff. We have never really seen an industry like craft beer have the potential of showing motherfuckers how to get this shit right, how to just be good human beings, how to strip away the ego and just be selfless in the moment, you know. And I can't wait to fucking buy people beer again, man. I mean, how awesome is it just to buy a stranger a beer, bro?
Oh, the best. Yeah. Beer is such a incredible way for people to come together and for people to be brought together. You know, you and I have spoken a bunch of times, and I'm realizing we kind of haven't really even gotten into who and what Crowns and Hops is, because there's so much familiarity between us personally and Andy Henhouse and the Crowns brand. Y'all are an Inglewood brand. We handle your distro up here in the Bay Area. But for folks who are maybe tuning in and learning about Crowns and Hops for the first time, give us the rundown of what you and Benny have created and made happen.
Sure, man. Well, first and foremost, Benny and I, again, we fell in love with the idea of what craft beer was, which was selfless, which was community, which was offering the community something that not only represented the terroir, the environment, the ingredients, and how the community engaged with the ingredients. We saw that as also an incredible opportunity on how you share culture as well. Traditionally, the owners infuse their culture into the brand. And, obviously you and I understand that in craft beer, trading is a huge aspect of it. When you're traveling out of town, one of the first things that you do is as a beer lover, you visit the local brewery, because if you only have 8 hours in the city, that if you go to that brewery, you're going to have an opportunity to capture the essence of that community. Benny and I truly saw that was missing in the Black and brown community. And this isn't any way in terms of throwing stones, but what we only saw in Black and brown communities were white-owned breweries who weren't from the community. Right. So what was happening was these entrepreneurs, is who they were, were primarily projecting their own experience, which a lot of times didn't match the experience of the environment that they were setting shop up in. Again, we understand the concept of being an entrepreneur and taking advantage of pulling yourself up from the bootstraps and whatnot. But with 8,000 breweries in the country and less than 1% being Black owned, we know there's more Black people in the country. We know there's more brown people in the country to that. So we saw that more so as an opportunity for us to not necessarily tear down what was there, but to build what wasn't. And it started off with Black people love beer and brown people love beer, just something to really kind of corral the community that was already there. It wasn't like there weren't Black and brown craft beer connoisseurs there in the first place. They were there. There was just no one really kind of creating or galvanizing this voice that has probably one of the most rich and contagious cultures on the planet. Hip hop in some places is probably more popular than religion in some places of the world. And we saw that as an opportunity we saw that as an opportunity for us to authentically represent our culture and our community in a space that was as beautiful as we saw craft beer to be. And it started off with just primarily being an advocate of the community, championing the breweries in our region. Shout out to Highland Park Brewery, Bob and the homies, El Segundo Brewing Company, LA Ale Works, Boomtown, just a lot of incredible breweries that we were able to partner with. Three Weavers, clearly,
Oh yeah.
and really launch experiences that talk about craft beer. We actually used to do craft beer pop-ups in the back of barbershops, because in a barbershop and a salon in California, you don't need a license to pour up to a pint of beer. So we would take those opportunities to share at least 3 to 4 3-ounce pours of a beer and invite the brewers to come in and talk about what they were making. But ultimately, what Benny and I realized is that the biggest contribution we could make was forming a craft brewing company ourselves. And that would allow us to freely and openly communicate our culture, our mission, which is to preserve culture, expand palates, and build community, and not have to ask for permission, not have to ask to take space, not have to ask to change the playlist, if you will. And we were just so excited to be able to do that and to have the support of our community. Right now, we're contract brewing. We definitely are professionals in what it means to communicate, curate, and design recipes that we love. But we trust our contract breweries to really execute the things that we're really hoping to communicate, not only to existing craft beer connoisseurs, but to newcomers who don't have an idea what craft beer is. And that leads me to my last point, which is our name. Crowns and Hops is the name we chose to remind people that they're deserving of the absolute best. No matter who you are or what you think you deserve, it doesn't matter. This stuff is accessible to you if you seek it out, and or more importantly, in craft beer, if you share it. So we wanted to remind people that they don't have to just accept the bottom of the barrel, because the bottom of the barrel is the only thing marketing to you. And we wanted to make sure that people understood that there was better options. And lastly, the word hops, contrary to what a lot of business people would say in this industry, not to add an ingredient or beer in your name. We thought it was really important to never forget that some people don't even know what a hop is. So if you don't even know what a hop is or what the ingredients are to make beer, and we consider hops being the most influential, we got the hops here.
Perfect.
We felt like that's a phenomenal opportunity to remind the people that are already in the community that there are people that don't know. And that's an opportunity for us to expand and build on the craft beer community in general. So I'm going to shut up and let you talk a little bit and maybe field some questions from our digital audience.
Yeah, that is a perfect summary and sum up of things. There's some funny stuff that I've bumped into where a famous British beer person was talking about how a company he worked for did a shift in marketing to accentuate that their beer was created by barley and hops, and some folks in the market said that they thought the beer was better when it was just brewed with chemicals, and they didn't like that they were using hops and barley now. It's super funny. Like if there's no one to explain to you what's in that bottle, what's in that can, you'd never know. You can't see it floating around in there. It's not like eating stew where you're like, oh, there's a carrot, there's a chunk of beef, there's a piece of celery coming back around. I
don't know, bro. There's a couple of breweries leaving all that shit in there, bro. So
definitely. And we had a long talk earlier. Our curmudgeons were talking about how you ought to not have so much live sugarful puree amidst live active yeast that your cans are exploding and destroying you. The things that some people have thought in 2020 was a reasonable way to sell beer to folks has been disappointing for us as an industry. But we at Henhouse, the good folks at our mutual friend at Ryan Geist at Ouzelfinch at Crowns and Hops, who we've been talking to.
And Ouzelfinch.
Yeah, we're all
Great name.
We're all united in the idea that your beer can shouldn't explode in your face and ruin your day. That used to not be a thing to brag about, but in 2020, it's a moment that we have to.
I will also say that that Hen House, like Crowns and Hops, believes and I think delivers across the board on something that I find is very important. I want to drink 100% of my beer.
Exactly.
I want to drink all of my beer. I want to turn my can upside down. I don't want to have to worry about if I'm drinking sediment and other things that are going to make me run to the fucking bathroom before I finish my conversation with Bob. Like I am so I don't know if disappointed is the word, because I know not everybody has the same skill set and everybody has the same access to equipment to allow them to deliver something that is as clean as possible, if you could say that about a hazy IPA. But man, it was tripping me out, all the hoops that people were expecting breweries to, expecting patrons to jump through in order to diminish the sediment content that was still in the can. And it's something that we've been committed to. It's something in-house.
Tio's kind of in and out with us. I'm sure he'll click back in here in a second. But yeah, like what he's talking about is like it's not good for us as manufacturers. Ultimately, like that's largely what brewing is we are manufacturing a product. We shouldn't leave it incumbent on the consumer first and foremost to keep themselves safe. Everything we should do should at all times be keeping consumers safe. As a longtime hospitality person, you're never like, oh yeah, man, this table, poison arrows get shot at it, so you don't want to sit there. You got to watch yourself. Like, no, it's up to us to have everything be all safe and all accessible at all times. Anybody doing anything less is failing to, I would personally argue, failing to maintain their social contract with the consumer. And then also making sure that the beer is just lovely for people is crucially important. As Tio was saying, this is a completely inverted can of wonderful Crowns and Hops beer, because I'm not about to miss out on any of this lightly smoked, deeply coffeed stout goodness. This is exactly the type of beer that was getting me excited about beer before I learned to speak the second language of hops. Fantastic beer produced by producers who are excited and focused on what the end user experience is going to be, and that their end user is part of their community and is someone to not be viewed as a like callously as a source of income, but your neighbor. Everything that you're brewing should be something you would want to share with your neighbor, with your friend, with your mom, with your brother, with everybody. You don't want to be throwing out crapola to folks. And I think that's happening less than it ever has in the craft brewing industry. We're looking at getting that percentage down even smaller. This Urban Queen is fantastic. Thank you, sir.
All right. This should be better. Here we go. Am I back, Bob?
Yeah, we got you. I was talking about how absolutely wonderful this Urban Queen is. And
look, it's I heard everything you said, and I think that should be the responsibility of our communities to deliver upon the the promise of just giving people, you know, the quality that I think our industry with regards to being craft is expecting.
Yeah,
craft. What else are you guys?
Not sketchy.
And what else are you guys doing at Hen House? I mean, I know you guys, you know, One, shout out to Josh, your designer, who I think
Huge.
I mean, that dude is cranking out some of the most creative and interesting craft beer labels I think we've seen in the game. Look at that shit, dude.
Big fan of Collect the
Yeah.
Rona.
Collect the Rona, dude. I mean,
we've got
I think one of my favorite.
I was going to say, we got some super wild stuff coming up with our upcoming lager line that like no one has seen yet. And it's just going to be yet another demonstration of how versatile Josh can be while keeping his designs interesting and compelling AF.
One of my favorite designs that he does or that he did was the one. It was like what was that TV show on HBO? It was like a True Detective, I think it was. And
yes, Time is a Flat Circle.
Oh my God, bro. That's like one of my most favorite designs that he did because he just completely leveraged that beautiful artwork and incorporated the world famous in-house chicken and created something that I think just looked incredible. I mean, he murdered that design, dude. He's incredible.
Yeah. Josh never ceases to amaze me. Like, wait till y'all see what he's doing with our new set of loggers that's coming. I have been just absolutely blown away with what he does. And for folks watching along at home, the closer you work with Josh as an employee, actually the more amazing and mystifying he gets. It's the opposite of being the magician's assistant and seeing you're like, oh yeah, it's a bunch of like, translucent fishing line and like there's like a false door over here. No, actually, the closer you work with Josh, the more you're like, wait, is it actually magic? Like, is this dude a wizard? I don't even know. Josh.
All right, so if you don't mind me turning a page on it, because I know you, Bob. I mean, you have definitely been putting it down in terms of your contribution at In-House. I'm curious to get your thoughts on a few things. I know I have my own, but for the craft beer, let's get into some craft beer geeky shit. Let's talk about hops for a moment, because I think there have been a couple of really incredible strides with regards to hops are concerned. I think one of the biggest would be the S hops in Sabro and Strata. Those, I mean, you're starting to see those hops pop up in fucking everything. We just got through producing Miles to Italy, which is our Italian stout. That'll be, excuse me. Yeah, there's that 8% kicking in. Thank you, In-House. That's our Italian Pilsner. That is our Beet Messenger base recipe, but we dry hopped it with Strata. What are some hops that you guys are really feeling right now? Like where are you at on the new hop category for 2021?
Right. Well, a hop for us that is really important to us as a brewery that isn't brand spanking new, but you don't see it popping up all over the place is Belma. I was talking a lot about Belma on 5 o'clock somewhere yesterday, and that hop is not the new, but it's grown in small enough quantities that to tons and tons of beer drinkers, even beer drinkers here locally in Northern California, are not deeply familiar with Belma, but Belma has always been something that we are.
Sounds like an old black auntie.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah.
Where Belma at?
Oh my God.
Belma?
Right on Belma would be
so much
such
shit.
And because we like Belma because it throws a lot of strawberry aroma, and strawberry aroma isn't of itself actually sweet, but most of us humans experience Belma we experience strawberry in the context of lots of other sweet things. So when you smell something that smells like strawberry, your brain is going to kind of sneak in, oh, it's strawberry. This must be sweet. Tell them to think about some sweet aromas as well. So Belma will always be one for us. I mean, like Sweet Antebellum just sounds awesome. Like that's a beer I would like.
Hey, Colin, let's put that recipe sheet together, bro. Sweet Auntie Belma. Like maybe we can like with some I don't know, something that would get maybe like a Belma and Citra kind of element where we get those juicy elements of the Citra, but then that strawberry element. That's it. You know, and I think that's probably one of the more interesting attributes of hops that I've seen. Like we've played with Grungeist a little bit, which is a German hop that gives some berry notes, a little bit more herbal than berry, but also some berry notes. That's interesting. I think also what we've been exploring recently are really kind of going back and looking at some of these hops that a lot of people have kind of written off. We're about to do a pale ale that has Strata, Idaho 7, and Comet. And Comet right now is beautiful. That combination of almost like old world and new world. I think we're hoping to bring together in our first pale ale, which will be dropping next month. We have an incredible beer that we're dropping for. We have an incredible set of beers that we're dropping for Women's History Month. Shout out to all the incredible women in the craft beer industry. We got you.
Huge.
But between like Comet and also Amarillo, which has somehow like kind of fallen off for a lot of teams. It's fucking incredible. It's a beautiful. It got big for a reason, and I think in introducing craft beer to communities who may not have been familiar with it from a decade ago, it's an incredible opportunity to kind of go back to some of these recipes that I fell in love with, that I introduced Benny to during that initial exploration. It's a great opportunity to go back and really explore some of, like, what's your favorite old school hop?
Well, I talk about this a lot, but Centennial, Centennial hasn't been completely written off or forgotten, but it was a hop that was, I know everyone's like, well, yeah, there's like these like 5, 6, 7, 8 like killer Centennial brands, but Centennial was something to me that I thought of as an old school hop. Like Centennial, anyone who's like, well, I know there's all these great Centennial beers and Centennial brands, but like seriously, like Simcoe and Mosaic were the hops that you saw everywhere. You look back at Centennial and Cascade and you're like, well, yeah, that's yesterday's grandpa hop. And I'm not interested in that, but Centennial still has so much fight in it, and it's still so great. Like Sonnets to Morpheus is a new beer that we just dropped with Centennial in it. We make Stoked on Centennial, which is 100% Centennial.
You guys use Centennial a lot.
We use it a lot, and I have really seen this big, beautiful, like lemon poppy seed thing that Centennial can deliver. But I had completely written that hop off. Like that hop in I had completely, there's that Urban Queen kicking in. I had completely written off the Centennial hop altogether. And even when Henhouse was brewing Chemtrails for the first time, which features Centennial, I was like, it's got all these great irrelevant hops that are cool now because we made them work, but they're not actually that exciting. And now I'm like, yo, Centennial, you've been fantastic, but you still aren't like that sexy, that prominent. Idaho Gem is something brand new that we just used.
Idaho Gem
with our friends at 4 Point.
Like some beef jerky, dude.
Yeah, right. But Idaho 7, really exciting. Zappa, which is in Big Chicken this year. This is some of that new hop, cutting edge kind of hop varietal. But really, like, it's about the hops we're using like 10 years from now. Like, who's excited about a hop that can like taste like cotton candy? Maybe someone's gonna have a hop that tastes like beef jerky. We're gonna do all kinds of cool.
You know what's crazy? Is not my favorite profile of, I mean, cause you know, if we're gonna dig into this shit and we're gonna
Yeah,
talk about shit that we love and shit, like the bubblegum thing is not my favorite
right.
for hops.
Yeah,
Like I get it, but when I'm drinking my beer, I can definitely dig the attributes that play well with citrus and tropical notes,
sure.
even some herbal notes, as it relates to saisons. You know,
Right.
obviously your hoppier beers, but bubblegum has never really been my favorite
Sure.
attribute, which I think a lot of people don't mind. Some of the New Zealand hops were doing that this year, but man, got Rawaka, freaking Nelson,
Yeah.
you know, all those hops were banging out of 2020. What region do you think would be the biggest as it relates to the hop for 2021?
Ooh, well, I would like to believe that the region for the hop for 2021 is that region that's within 50 miles of your brewery. Like, that's
Ooh,
so super what's up. That is so super
mm,
what's making the beer more for you and for your people, because you are all up in that area, whether you are in like
there you
the
go, local,
coldest
local.
part of North Dakota to like the swampiest swamp zone in South Florida, like
You know
wherever.
what's crazy? I remember I had some of those early like New Mexico beers that was doing a lot of those New Mexican hops. And I remember initially I was like, oh my God. I mean, they were so dank. I mean, they were like fucking weed. I mean, it was like you were drinking weed beer. That's how dank
Right,
they were. But then all of a sudden they started just kind of, I think people started really understanding how to balance and manipulate those hops, you know. So I think that's a really great point. I think it's also something that we're focused on doing, you know, from a racial equity standpoint, which is shine a light back on Black farmers,
yes,
and really encouraging more farmers to start to take on some of this hop development and this hop experimentation, because you know, I think to your point, there's an opportunity for us to truly find out what is going to be resilient in some of these regions, and what
definitely.
climates are going to produce some different lupulin kind of components that maybe we have never seen before because of the technique of the cultivator. So
Right.
at Crowns and Hops, we're really excited to explore that as well. Not just the racial equity of craft beer, but the racial equity surrounding the craft beer industry, which is a huge initiative of ours with the 8 Trail Pills initiative.
Yeah. And do you want to talk a little about the Atrials pills? The eight, there's an Urban Queen again. Talk a little bit about the Atrial pills
that actually is on
initiative.
purpose. The 8 Trail Pills and Urban Anatomy is those are the big tongue twisters that we have, which is pretty awesome. But in short, the 8 Trail Pills initiative was an initiative that we created. It was inspired by the Kellogg Foundation's business case for racial equity.
Right.
Even though Benny and I have always been focused on diversity and inclusion, it was one of the first times we were presented with ideas that took that concept of diversity and inclusion and built a framework around it that truly was a recipe for, or rather, a strategy for economic growth for our entire country. So, you know,
Right.
before I think a lot of people looked at diversity and inclusion as a zero sum game, or that someone has to lose in order for Black people and brown people to win. But if you look at the concepts that are really in racial equity, it really is the expansion and
Absolutely.
the expanding of industries. So a simple way of putting that is when someone in my Black community discovers craft beer for the first time through me, the reality is they're going to fall in love with the craft, not just
Mhm.
Crowns and Hops. So when they go to the store,
Yeah.
they're gonna probably get a Crowns and Hops, but they're also going to get a Three Weavers. They're also going to get a Firestone Walker. They're also going to get a hen house. And that's good for the entire industry. So the more that people see themselves, see their culture, and see their community in something that they've never seen it before, the better it is, not only for them, but for the industry itself. And that's what 8 Trill Pills is all about. It's a resource. So the 8 Trill Pills .org is a resource to help people connect and understand the concept. The 8 Trill Pills beer is a beer we brew in 3 different countries: Germany, the UK, and here in the United States, in Columbus, Ohio, and here in Inglewood. 100% of those proceeds go to organizations focused on racial equity. And then we have the 8 Trill Pills grant, which we're building again to help other Black-owned breweries not only exist and survive, but to flourish. Because again, like I mentioned at the top of this conversation, out of 8,000 breweries in the country, less than 1% are Black-owned, and that's not just a random statistic. It is a factor, or rather a showcasing of what systemic racism is capable of. So at the end of the day, the more Black-owned breweries, the less and the dismantling, or the more dismantling of racism, systemic racism, that'll be.
Right. And you know, that's the continuing work. That is something that I look forward to seeing in the brewing industry. That's even more exciting and compelling than some killer new hop varietal. And I think we're slowly moving in that direction, hopefully. And hopefully we can keep doing that, because, you know, representation is crucial. And that's such a huge thing that I think y'all are doing to show to people that this, for people who aren't white dudes from the burbs with big ass beards, this is something for me too. And that is what I'm really excited about seeing in the future of brewing. And then back to the nerdy side, we can sci-fi it super hard and say with the
by the way, I'm a Frank Herbert dude all day. I'm the biggest fucking nerd. Like, I don't have my comic books in this room, but when I tell you I am the biggest fucking nerd, by the way, WandaVision is popping off right now. That shit is fucking incredible. Wanda is fantastic. A beast.
I haven't dipped in yet, but I have since Mandalorian ended, I have kept my Disney Plus membership going, because I'm gonna circle back into WandaVision. Dying to check that out.
Shout out to all the beer geeks, all the Black beer geeks in the world. I tell you, those are the lines and arteries of similarity and that exist no matter what, and they make us what I believe to be just the best champions of what it means to be better, you know, and that's all Benny and I are about, man. We're about unfolding, we're about progress, and just really trying to create spaces, whether it be digital or in person, for everybody to connect and just be their authentic selves, man. It's like that's who I want to meet. I want to meet authentic Bob. I don't give a shit about the Bob that had to assimilate in order to keep his job, Bob. Like I want to meet Bob, the fucking Henry Longfellow bearded Bob, who nerds out like I do.
Yeah, and you know, luckily I'm in an industry with a company that that makes space for the entirety of me. And man, behind this beard, behind this top button, there's a lot of me that people got to make a lot of room for. Let me get super deep into speculative fiction here. We talk about in beer a concept that we've only known about for comparatively a few years, which is biotransformation. And that is the way in which hop compounds are interacting with yeast in creating new flavor compounds as new hops emerge into the market and new yeasts emerge into the market, like sour Vissier, which we use in our juiced goza to create lactic acid, which is amazing. And the hop, or I'm sorry,
we also used it in Crowns and Axes, which is
exactly.
our collaboration we did with Great Notion.
Yeah. And so there's also a yeast called High Sierra that is meant to throw out some hop character. We use that in a beer called Steroid Era that we brewed with the good folks at Drake's Brewing as a collab. How about like 8 years from now, you and me, Tio, we're talking about the yeasts that we buy along with the hops that we buy, because the yeast and the hop are both created to pair together to create a flavor that like doesn't exist in nature otherwise. We might be talking about that in 8 years. We might be talking about that shucks in 2 years. Things are wild, and I'm really excited to be studying and getting certified in beer now before those things are a reality, and I have to learn all of that on top of all the other stuff I have to learn. But where flavors can go, what people can be drinking, there's never been a more exciting time than now, and probably the next most exciting time is a year from now, and the most exciting time than that is 2 years from now.
Bro, what we're talking about is alchemy at its best.
Exactly.
We're talking about the concept of just, spontaneity. And I mean, it's one of the reasons why we introduced the concept of jazz into our beer making. We believe that everything is energy. And I mean, technically everything is energy. I mean, there's, we could get into the physics aspect of it, but everything is energy. Which is one of the reasons why we play jazz and we play hip hop when we're brewing beer, because if we can influence the energy around the surfaces and the cells that are producing this beer, then we think that actually plays a part in influencing what you're going to taste. I believe it'll go even a step further into understanding what sound and what things in the environment actually do to influence yeast. Yeast is a living thing. And I think for people to understand that, one, we know what stimulates it. We know what stimulates the movement of it. We know what food and what sugars actually create more energy. And I think the next frontier is what else can we do to influence that energy? So, I think that's more of a physics conversation. Than it is a biology conversation, but it's an exciting industry to be in, to experiment and play with some of these ideas.
Yeah, and it's a music conversation too. We have a beer called Future Music that is all about comparing where music has come from, where music goes, and I wrote it's my job. I wrote the menu copy for that. And in that menu copy, I talk about the journey from Chuck Berry to Jimi Hendrix. And I think we're actually, and this is my own, I'm not a perfect expert. I don't know. Let's go, Bob. So much I don't know. Bob. But I would argue we are right now still living in the Chuck Berry era, where people are like, oh my God, rock and roll, this is wild. And we're still listening to Johnny B. Good, and we're like, holy shit, how did he do that? We haven't even gotten to the Jimi Hendrix, holy shit, how did he do that part of brewing red?
It's one of the reasons why we created that Pilsner Beat Messenger. Beat Messenger is an ode to Black Americans of African descent who created jazz, who created rock and roll and rhythm and blues. If you think about the depth and the point of reference that was needed in order to create these original art forms, which we can also call original American art forms, that is really incredible when you think about it. When you think about with Duke Ellington, with Miles Davis, with Chuck Berry, with a lot of these. We're talking about literally the invention or the reinvention, if you will, using instruments and sounds that came from the continent of Africa that unfolded into what, you know, virtuosos like Eddie Van Halen will be playing on these strings. You know what I mean? Like the unfoldment of where it started to where it is continuing to unfold, to your point, is such a great and fun and beautiful conversation that we typically have over a craft beer.
Exactly.
You like how I brought that around?
Dude, bringing it all back around like a marketing pro, which Tio is. I mean, that's a brand builder talking right there, folks.
Hey man, I mean, but you know, it's more than a brand. It's about a connection. It's about our responsibility to maintaining and continuing that connection. And I think that's what makes our company special. Hen House, I mean, you guys have been phenomenal. I'm not sure many people understand how much work you do in the community, in addition to just giving it great beer. But again, shout out to Colin, Shane, Bob, Fridge, Sayer, you know, McLean, you know, Sarah, the whole crew, man. You guys are incredible.
Yeah, production, logistics. Yeah, man. We've done it. I've made it all the way to the end of 5 o'clock everywhere. Look at me, maintaining virtual eye contact, not slurring my words.
Wait. Let's give it to him one more time, Bob.
Let's do it. I screwed it up. There we go.
Let's just connect. One good time, let them know that, man, I love you, bro.
Dude, right back at you, Tio.
I love you, bro.
Thank you so much for what you're doing for the industry. Thank you so much for properly smoking and coffeeifying your stout, which to me, deep in my heart, like I love Hen House Oyster Stout, but any stout without a little bit of smoke and a little bit of coffee, to me, will always be lacking a little bit of smoke and a little bit of coffee at the very least.
Shout out to Red Bay Coffee out of Oakland.
Yes.
Whole Foods, Alkali Rye, Blackbeard.
Yes.
That beer is available now. Get it off of the shelf. Kill it. Crush it. Share it. More importantly, share it.
Grab it. Thank you for being part of Big Chicken in Place. Thank you for being a part of the industry. Thank you for spending some time with me. Thank you for taking a chance on a cute little Saison brewery behind a bunch of auto dealerships as part of your Northern California adventure all those years ago.
And look, I will let you get to Colin, Abraham, Lincoln, McDonald, and Sayer, the light-skinnedest black dude in all of the Bay Area. Bob, I love you, dude. Have a good one.
Dude, love you too.
Happy Big Chicken.
Happy Big Chicken. Give Benny a big ass hug for us. And we'll be doing this again real soon. Look for my 5 o'clock somewhere beg and plead popping up in your inbox real soon. We'll do this again. Cheers. All right.